stupid. Like, get caught by your parents. It's KI.
Well,
Like Survivor.
And welcome back to another edition of The Science of Weed on K-Highs, letstalkpot.com. Thanks for listening, everybody out there worldwide. You're in the studio today with just Aaron and Eddie. How's it going, Mikey? If you do have us tuned in down in Pueblo, working on the farm, how's it going? Hope you're not working too hard. We're having fun here in the studio.
yeah.
Like we mentioned last week, this week we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to change it up. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of cannabis use. It is going to have a little bit to do about the science and why the science is there, and more on the psychological aspect and how that taboo affects the cannabis industry, and why the U.S. government had done what they done starting in the late 1800s.
Yeah. Well, that and the lack of the information that was available back then. So much of it was, swept under the rug, put on the table, it wasn't allowed to be discussed. And there's a lot of findings that we've now been able to research and, read through all the studies done back in the 70s and 80s, whatnot, that provide information that was completely against what everyone was telling us. So be a good show today for sure. So
absolutely. So we also want to say hi to. We're going to go on a little bit another rant here in the beginning too, just on the August Kitchen side of things and Moonrise Cultivators. That's who your show is sponsored by, along with Emerald Fields. But August Kitchen and Moonrise Cultivators have taken a really huge step this week. So Lance, Mooney, Gary, Andrea, and Derek, if you guys are listening to the show this morning, if you do tune in later on YouTube, hey, how's it going, everybody out there? We did receive all of our provisional licensing and our certificate of occupancy for our building. So currently, August Kitchen is just waiting for our MED walkthrough, and you will be finding us on your shelves.
Yep, very excited about that. Definitely keep an eye out. We'll let you know here soon. Next week, the Cannabis Expo, June 19th and 20th here in Colorado Springs. We will be at the Team Pluto benefit event there, if you will. Table, I guess, is what I want to put there. Booth. There's the word I'm looking for. Find it eventually. But we will be at the Team Pluto booth this weekend coming up at the Cannabis Expo. So definitely come by, check us out, meet Team Pluto, meet Pluto the dog. Sharice will be there. They've been doing great. They got an apartment this week, I saw on Facebook for Sharice's updates.
They did. We're actually maybe going to try to swing by there a little bit before this evening. If not, I will be swinging by to say hi to you guys, Sharice and Nick. We'll be seeing you guys soon this afternoon too.
For sure. So, and she's been seizure-free minus just those couple little incidences since they moved here. So congrats again on that. Definitely glad to hear about your progress with that. So
definitely. So a lot of exciting things happening this week. It's going to be a busy summer.
Always.
Definitely. So, but again, we're gonna talk in the show. We're going to get into Reefer Madness in the beginning, of course, because that is the taboo thing to talk about if you are going back into the recent history of cannabis use and why our specific government had taken its stand and why it did. So we're going to get into a little bit of that too here in just a second. So we're going to kick off. I guess we'll just go ahead and hop right into it. It's Reefer Madness.
Yep. So if you haven't seen the movie, I know last time I checked it was on Netflix. Definitely watch it. It's a good laugh. If nothing else, it's definitely a good laugh. So, the movie actually originally started it was called Tell Your Children, is what it was originally intended to be. So it was just for parents that were, supposed to be shown this video to basically put the fear of God in them, if you will, on cannabis use and to hopefully eliminate their children from trying it. So it was a huge exploitation drama. Just centered around the drug addiction. Big in 1936 through 1939, that's when it was really around and being used. There were just super melodramatic events that happened of these high school students. Again, if you haven't watched it, definitely do. It's hilarious. But they used the marijuana and they were led into different things like a hit and run incident manslaughter, suicide, attempted rape, hallucinations. I mean, worse than some of your scary movies out there these days, even, you know.
Yes, definitely.
So quite the interesting one. But it was their descent into madness due to marijuana addiction was the plot behind the title of the movie, if you will. So it was actually financed by a church group, which, I thought you might enjoy and giggle at that one a little bit there.
I'll stay off my soapbox.
Yeah, we won't go into that one. But again, it was intended for parents to be shown as a morality tale, to attempt to teach them about cannabis and the dangers of it that they thought existed, which, again, as we well know, they don't. So funny. But the film was rediscovered in the 70s as an unintentional satire among advocates of the cannabis policy reform. So again, we just thought it was hilarious. So what? You really think people are going to commit suicide and, date rape? Really? Date rape? Out of all things, that's what cannabis is going to bring about? It just made me giggle quite a bit, especially being a female, growing up in the time that I have even and going to college where there are safe, policies enacted. So there's police there anytime, there were little signs with like little warning stickers on it and the police buttons that would notify the police, and they would come directly to that pole on campus for things like that. And I definitely didn't think marijuana was going to lead to that, but
yes, not at all.
Quite an interesting one. So, but yeah, so kind of led into that. The films, again, they were popular in the 30s, which was when the marijuana tax reform came around, or the Tax Act rather. And that's another big subject that we'll get into here in a minute with that. But I want to go back and kind of touch on what Reefer Madness really exploited with the high school students on the events that they encountered during that movie. Again, the hit and run accident. We've seen a lot of studies come around, especially here recently, and we've seen all the good to know campaigns about not smoking in your car. And I'm not an advocate of drinking and driving or smoking and driving or doing things like that. Be safe, do it, in a reasonable manner. That's what it's there for. Don't abuse it. Otherwise, it is just like alcohol at that point. And yeah, we've put our foot in our mouth to an extent of comparing it to alcohol, but anyway,
correct.
I won't get on that soapbox either. So hit and run accidents, just to kind of give you an overview on that. They looked at marijuana and how that is compared to alcohol with your psychomotor skills. It does not appear to be a severe or long-lasting effect on those skills, so it shouldn't really be, decreasing your motor skills at all. So you should be able to drive, is what they're saying. Basically, it's not such an impact that it's causing issues for people. So
definitely. And we mentioned we were just talking about a study before the show started in regards to the arrows and the study and how individuals on cannabis use would recognize a small degree term in that arrow where individuals that weren't didn't recognize it.
So that specific study was about men. They were asked to study arrows again, yes. They were placed either on the left or the right side of the screen. Most of them pointed straight, but occasionally they would throw in an oddball situation, which is where the degree of the arrow was tilted about 23 degrees from the original. The participants' brains were scanned while they identified which direction the arrows were pointing in, so scientists could determine which parts of the brain were actually being affected by the marijuana's active ingredients. In this study, they specifically looked at THC again, which is what's going to give you that psychoactive side of things, and then they also looked at cannabidiol, which is CBD, which doesn't give you as much of that psychoactive effect, but can give you some. And then they also had a placebo group. But in all of the situations, it took longer for the men to respond to the unusually pointing arrows. Not surprisingly, as men don't multitask well. Yep. See, told you. But after taking the THC, the men actually responded faster in both oddball and usual cases than they did under the influence of either the CBD or the placebo. So the CBD, it's slowing things down. It's, helping that process with that. Whereas the THC is giving you that upper. It's getting you, thinking a little faster, which is really interesting when you think about THC improving the speed of your thought when we think of marijuana in general slowing things down and, causing issues with memory and things of that nature later down the road too. So
yeah, and if we think of it as a filter per se. And we say that CBD, and we're talking about the entourage effect of THC and CBD together. Again, that's what works, you know.
Yep.
But when you're talking about this, the CBD, we say it slows it down, but a huge motto within the military world and the Navy SEALs is smooth is fast and fast is smooth. If you think of it in that aspect, what CBD and THC is doing is actually not really slowing down that signal process to where your response is delayed, but it's filtering that process, so it's taking those signals properly.
More streamlined.
Correct. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, well, there's no static there anymore. It is helping clear up that aspect of things. And we need to understand that studies aren't there. We don't know why this is happening per se. We definitely need more universities and institutions behind this study and the government behind the study so we can ensure that this research is there. And again, that's why we're talking about Reefer Madness today and these historical aspects of cannabis, because it does have a huge impact on what we're studying today as scientists and our ability to do so.
Yep.
This is why we weren't able to do so for so long and why we've been set back as an institution for so long.
Yep, for sure. So to go on from there, they continue to talk about manslaughter happening in Reefer Madness with cannabis. And I did look up just cannabis and manslaughter rather, and there are a handful of cases. But again, just the same as we were talking earlier today, Eddie, about manslaughter and suicide being kind of lumped together on that. There's so many cases that go and depict marijuana as the drug that was responsible for those events happening when we in fact have no idea what else that person was under. You know, were they having mental illnesses that were going on at the time? Were they on any other drugs, you know, pharmaceutical or, you know, under the table type black market, you know, heroin, meth, whatever the case may be? We don't know. So, I mean, and that's the problem, again, with the studies not being there. There's no research to back it saying that it is this causing it or not causing it. Same as I talked on the PTSD show, though, there is a lot of information that says that it's going to affect people differently. So that's something that we, again, have to consider. You know, are you, you know, suffering from a mental illness that's going to be impacted worse by using marijuana or something with marijuana in it than if you weren't, you know,
Correct.
under that mental illness. So
yeah, definitely, because it's not a cure-all. Cannabis plant is not a cure-all.
No.
This isn't gonna, you're not going to be able to grow it in your backyard and be disease-free for the rest of your life. No, it is. You know, we talk about this all the time on the show, where use your physicians. You know, if you're having psychological issues, talk to your psych professionals.
Yep.
You know, and ask them. Tell them that you're using cannabis. Don't hide it. You don't have to anymore. You know, tell your physicians. You know, these doctors are starting to hear these questions, and
Yep.
you know, the more questions you ask in regards to it, the more answers that they have to research and provide to you. So push them in that position.
And my personal thought, if you don't feel comfortable telling your doctor that you're using cannabis as a form of medication, why are you going to that specific doctor? You need to find somebody that you are comfortable enough telling them everything, essentially. There's HIPAA laws in place that they can't go tell everybody else what's going on in your life and what you're doing. But again, if you're not comfortable telling somebody that has to keep a secret like that, you might ought to seek somebody else out. You know, talk to some friends and family around that do use cannabis, see who they're using as their physician, because they've obviously got somebody that they're talking to about it. So seek some other help out. There's so many people out there willing to help you. Definitely don't stay stuck in the closet, you know, kind of a thing, just because you're comfortable there at the moment. Break free, get rid of that stigma. It's hard, but
Yeah, if you're listening to us here on the show, give us a call here at the station. It's 719-591-5874. You can go to our website also. We've got a new website for you to check out. It's thescienceofweedshow.com. So go on there. As soon as you load up the page, you can put in your information. We do follow all HIPAA laws here on the show. So any information that you do provide to the Science of Weed, all of us here will take those into strict confidence and confidentiality for those things that you tell us, so we can address those issues too. And if you don't feel comfortable hearing those or having your stuff aired out, you know, let us know. Say, hey, you know, I'd like to keep this private, and we can do everything we can to. If we can't answer it, we'll put you in the right direction for sure.
Keep it generic, or if you want just an email response back, even, we'll be more than happy to do that for you. Again, as Eddie and Mikey in the past have talked, we're not doctors. Don't take anything we have to say 100% for sure type of a thing. Still talk to your physicians, talk to your medical professionals. Make sure that you're coming off of any medications that you're wanting to come off of properly with dosage decreasing, things of that nature. Don't hurt yourself more trying to do good for yourself. Make sure you're talking to people about it. So,
yes, there's a proper way to do it.
Yep.
Absolutely. So
Yep.
make sure you do take those steps. It takes time.
Yep.
But take the steps. So you'll feel better about it in the future. I promise you.
Yep. So again, another thing that Reefer Madness touched on throughout the high schoolers events in the movie is attempted rape. There's a scene, and it's ridiculous. Again, you'll crack up laughing if you watch it, if you haven't already. But it's interesting, like you mentioned, how Reefer Madness is coming back around even more now, especially as we're trying to push more medical states legal and recreational states legal too. Florida, back in 2014, they were going through their Amendment 2, where they were trying to make medical marijuana legal for doctors to prescribe. Simple enough, nothing crazy. Well, they brought out this whole campaign centered specifically around date rape with cannabis, and talked about how, there's even an ad that I saw with this gentleman. He has a pot cookie in his back pocket, and it says, "Will the new face of date rape look like a cookie?" Like, you're just going to give edibles to somebody, they're going to pass out, and you're going to rape them. We need to be talking to our children about that. That is absolutely wrong. That starts with education for sure.
Exactly.
No matter what you're using to put somebody under, to take advantage of somebody like that, it's inexcusable. Yeah, it's a way bigger issue. But I know I've had a few too many edibles before, and yeah, I've passed out eventually, but I don't know that I've ever been passed out to the point that even alcohol has ever made me feel just completely
blackout.
Yeah, just completely blacked out. I've never felt that way on cannabis. I've never, thank God, had a date rape drug given to me or something like that, a roofie or whatever. But I know from different articles I was reading through this last week that there is no comparison in what cannabis does compared to what Rufalin or something like that does to a person. So
exactly, and people stating that, okay, well, if you give somebody enough cannabis, they will involuntarily fall asleep. Okay, well, that can lead to this, and that can lead to that, and that can lead to that. We could say anything can lead to anything. We really need to, that's what we're about here on Science of Weed. We're just facts. We're not going to, we're getting a little bit on our soapbox today in regards to some of the history, but again, we're trying to address it so you understand why we're in the position we are today as scientists.
Yep. Well, even when Florida was going through that, Senator Jeff Clemens told WPTV at the time that he thought that any woman should find that offensive to somehow suggest that if you use medical marijuana to deal with a health issue, that somehow that's going to make you more susceptible to rape. It's just the same as that whole jeans campaign that came around, saying that women asked for it. That's like saying that women are asking for it because they're using another form of something medical instead of a pharmaceutical drug that's putting them under or something like that.
Correct. It's absurd. It's fear tactics.
Yeah.
It goes to the base of Reefer Madness.
That's exactly what Reefer Madness was completely. So,
yeah, and it's still going on today. We can still see it in politics and that sort of thing today, even in science today.
Yeah.
There's tons of scientists that are out there saying, oh, no to this, and no to cannabis, and no, this is false, and they're just not paying attention to what's occurring.
Yep.
Truly, they're not.
Yep. So the last thing that Reefer Madness goes through with the high schoolers is hallucinations. So they have all kinds of hallucinations, and I'm not going to say that you're not going to have some sort of hallucination when you're on the use of cannabis. There is a good chance of it. That's what it partly does. That's what a psychoactive effect is. But a hallucination, it's a large dose. Typically large doses or stronger forms of marijuana is what's going to result in a hallucination. So it's going to be those high THC content strains, taking, a ton of milligrams of edibles that you shouldn't be taking, kind of a thing. So you just have to watch out for that. We'll touch a little bit more after the break when we come back on hallucinations, and psychosis, and how marijuana is affecting that today.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, we're going to go into more detail on those specifics because we're going to talk about why the hallucinations occurred.
Yep.
We're going to talk about why they targeted date rape, why they targeted the automobile accidents and that sort of thing. We're going to talk about why those things, because it wasn't just pulled out of the air. There were some reasonings behind that sort of thing. So as you can hear, enjoy the music as we bring it back a little bit here today on the Science of Weed. We're talking about reefer madness, the history behind it, and why scientists are doing what they're doing. You're listening to the Science of Weed on letstalkpot.com.
This is K-High, the world's first station dedicated to marijuana awareness. How in the world?
Ben, that was awesome. Thank you.